Hey, everybody, it's John Michael, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to be with us for Module 9 in the Magic Grimoire Studies, which is focused on entheogenic magic and mysticism. Now, before we begin and dive deep into the topic, I want to remind everybody that all of the information I'm providing here in this recording is for educational and academic purposes only. We're not making any personal recommendations concerning the use or therapeutic potential or safety of any of the substances that we may talk about in today's module. So let's dive in and talk about entheogenic spiritual practices. These are practices that evolve through time and through tradition that often involve the use of psychoactive substances in combination with spiritual practices for the intention of connecting with source, connecting with the divine within. So, in our presentation today, we're going to explore these unique practices. We're going to look at some of the potential benefits, but this won't be exhaustive because there's an entire workshop that I do that's a 4 hour workshop that talks about entheogenic journey work and transcultural shamanism. From that perspective, to use entheogens in journey work, it's is always something that we recommend that people do with guidance. It's always something that we recommend that people take care. But we can also use entheogens in spell work, and we could use it for as a plant ally. So we recommend that if you haven't done so already, read chapter 9 in the book Songs of the Night Skies for a detailed explanation of this material. And again, just want to remind everybody that we're not recommending the use. In fact, I'm going to talk a little bit about how you could do this without internally taking these entheogens. But there's a long and certainly interesting history for their use. So let's talk about that, the history of entheogenic spiritual practices. For thousands of years in many cultures around the world, including ancient Egypt, the Mediterranean, India, Central and South America, parts of North America, these practices were used to connect with the divine, to experience insight that you might not otherwise experience, healing at a deeper and more profound level, and to explore altered states of consciousness as just sort of, just a rough, a broad stroke outline of some of the ways that we use entheogens in our spiritual practice. And throughout time, that has changed as all magical practices do within our traditions, so that by the time most of our ancestors would have come to the New World in the first or second wave of immigration in the end of the 18th century to the 1930s, 1940s, we start to see a shift away from these practices because there were other things, other concerns, other pursuits that people were doing, and entheogenic spirituality was something that was largely looked down upon. You've probably heard the stories of the alleged origins of witches' flying bomb, or we've talked in the Stregonaria course about using the dream work bomb. Some of you have had experience with that. Others may have been through an ayahuasca sacramental practice. And if you read in the book, I talk briefly about the mystery schools, both the Dionysian and the Eleusinian mystery schools, and many others that followed, like the cult of Mithras, certainly the early Jesus movement, the early tradition of following the Eucharistic tradition, which we could talk in much deeper, much more focused conversation about how the Eucharist itself may very well have been the story of the of uh, Holy Thursday of the Last Supper could have been a story that's rich with details, that point us to the fact that they had an entheogenic sacramental experience that night. So there are that's just some of the history. And every culture will have slightly different histories, some really interesting, some that get influenced by colonialism or abruptly end because of colonialism and oppression, or the taking over of one country by another country. So when we talk about the types of entheogenic spiritual practices, as I said, these might include the use of psychedelics such as ayahuasca, psilocybin, or amanita mushrooms, plants, herbs, and other organic materia. Always, before jumping into something like this, something that is such a deep and historically rooted practice, just remember that it's best to do this with guidance, with supervision from an experienced practitioner, and somebody who can help guide you to do this safely. And while we're talking about safety, for those who may be considering employing some of these traditions into their practice, remember that it's not necessary to consume the entheogens in your working. And this is a relatively new concept, in the new world. But if we cultivate a personal relationship with all plant allies before undertaking the work of entheogenic journey work, or baneful magic using entheogens, or reconnecting with our spiritual source, you can cultivate that relationship and ask the entheogenic plants and fungi and other materia to guide you on that spiritual journey or the dream work or whatever it is you happen to be doing. Now, these can be used by with or without internal uh, consumption, for transcultural journey work, for ancestral connection, for solving problems that you might need some additional insight, psychic work, baneful craft, psychic awakening, reconnecting with the divine within. Really, the underlying fact is that these practices are used for you to connect or reconnect with the source of your power. And so it's in that way, it's a very powerful experience. And it's life changing. I can tell you, having used entheogenic magic and entheogenic spirituality and mysticism for many many years, and there are those who suspect that a lot of the desert fathers and desert mothers may have had experience with some of these entheogens in their spirituality, in the sort of the ecstatic experience as well. Now, when we talk about the benefits of entheogenic spiritual practices, the list could go on forever, but primarily physical and psychological healing, connection with source or reconnection with source, improved relationships, deepening self awareness, exploration of consciousness itself. Learning to navigate the altered states of consciousness, and as I said, the sacramental experience, which is always done under guidance and initiation. And this is one of those areas where the intersectionality between sort of religion or spirituality and magic can be found, can be experienced. And I think that the reason that intersectionality exists is because our ancestors understood and the great masters understood that in order to truly reclaim and use your personal power for its highest and greatest good, you have to remember that you are one with the entire cosmos. And so that reconnection that happens with this sort of entheogenic journey work is one that lets you see there is no dividing line between me and source. There is no dividing line between me and you, or me and this rock, or me and this plant. And so we broaden our perspective to see that essential unity that we talk about a lot in the Stregonaria 101 course, that it underlies a lot of the worldview of our ancestors. But the benefits, also include, medical science is seeing some of the benefits for people suffering from clinical depression, traumatic stress, and all sorts of other problems, that again, become a little bit refocused when we are in that altered state of mind. So without sounding like I'm making any kind of prescriptions or recommendations, remember, this video and this presentation are provided for educational and academic purposes only. I can't say that enough. It's not my intention or the intention of Inner Alchemy to present this for prescription or endorsement or recommendation of internally using any entheogenic substances, and that includes also coming in contact through skin with some entheogens as well, because they can, in fact, have an absorption factor attached to it. So again, with guidance always, with somebody who's got experience, and you can do a lot of digging on the topic through social media, through YouTube. We'll put some of the resources in the classroom section that I've personally reviewed, including connections to some of the theories out there about that Last Supper being an entheogenic journey experience. But in conclusion, I just want to say that entheogenic spiritual practices have been used for thousands of years. Our ancestors use them, other cultures use them, and they can offer many potential benefits. These practices can help you explore the divine within, gain insight and healing, reconnect with the source of your power, and provide you with a deeper understanding of who it is that you truly are. By contrast to sort of that dualistic identity that we're raised or enculturated to believe in. So I hope this has been really helpful for you in the discussion. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer those. Just put them in the text portion of the discussion itself. And because we're starting to see such a diminished number of folks able to make the live presentations, my objective going forward, as I reevaluate some of this stuff, will be to do more of these pre-recorded sessions that allows you to then ask questions in the text, so that folks who don't really have time to watch an hour long presentation can watch 10 or 15 minutes of presentation and then scroll through the comments and ask their questions. And it'll be a little extra work for me. But I think it'll be well worth it. So I hope this has been helpful and valuable to all of you. I hope that that it answers some of your questions. And again, if you haven't done so already, make sure you read chapter 9 for some increased clarity. We'll talk to you soon.